It's 3 o'clock, folks. Welcome to the October 26th session of the Board of Library Trustees of the Allen County Public Library. Gloria, will you call the roll?
Absolutely. Mr. Eisbart?
Present.
Ms. Tucker? Mr. Castleman?
Present.
Mr. Seifert?
Present.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Moss? And myself, Shamanoff. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 present and 3 absent.
4 present, 3 absent. We have a quorum. So let's adopt the agenda. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by aye.
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 Opposed by nay. If no one objects, let's group the minutes of the A, B, C, and D notations together. Any objection? None? Well, then I'd like a motion for the approval of the minutes of the regular session of September 28th, 23, the executive session of September 28th, 23, minutes of the approval of claims, October 11th, 2023, and minutes of the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting, October 12th, 2023.
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
I'll take the second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
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 Opposed by nay. Okay, David, the financial report for September.
Thank you, Ben. In your packet are the reports, of course. Again, this month, there's no new lines spending outside the benchmarks. Everything's staying well within them. We'll be coming into November and December where we'll start doing budget adjustments for the things that I've noted up here in the categories. And so, those will be part of the December agenda. Other than that, the main thing that's going on tonight is the approval of the budget. We had the public hearing, as you recall, last meeting in October, and we've had no comments, no objections registered either at that hearing or since then. So I've prepared the forms, and they'll be voted on a little later in the agenda. Once those are done, I will get that all set up on Gateway and submitted, and we'll be done with the 24 budget for this year until we have the DLGF approval then later in December. Other than that, the only other thing that I wanted to note was, of course, we had the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting on October 12th, and we'll go into some of those later, but it was a good meeting. It was really Larray and posing a lot of our compensation and benefit information for 24 that will, of course, again be voted on at the November meeting. So, other than that, not much else to report on at this point.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Accept a motion to accept the report for September of 23 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by aye. Opposed by nay. It passes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I want to see if you're awake.
Here. Being proactive. All right.
Okay, how about claims? We have a few.
Yeah, just a few. There's about 1.4 million with payroll and all the rest of some of the larger claims today. That actually is the renewal of the Microsoft licenses, so that was around 73,000. And of course our electrical service, and then books, and we have some maintenance agreements that are starting to flow in now for the following year, like for our self-check units and stuff. But overall, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the claims as circulated?
So moved.
Second?
So moved.
Second. Gloria, he says so moved, and you say second.
Aye. Thank you for correcting me on that.
It was a friendly correction.
The next one will be more.
Any discussion?
I just had one question, because you mentioned the Microsoft licenses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much longer, are we on the do we use Microsoft 365 or?
We're
we
actually converting to that.
Yeah, yeah, I was thinking if we haven't yet, we're going to have to.
Oh, yes.
Kim can tell you all about it.
Yes.
We've been
My
at it for
my
a
office,
few months.
my office hasn't yet either, but we understand that eventually we'll have to, so, whether we like it or not.
Any other comments? All those in favor signify by aye,
Aye.
opposed by nay.
I'll
And
bring these around for signature.
how about a report from the Finance and Personnel Committee?
I can start with that, and Dave, you can chime in as well. So you did approve minutes of our last Finance and Personnel Committee meeting on October 12th. Gibson, our insurance brokers, will be at our November regular meeting. And just a reminder, the November regular meeting will be a week earlier because of Thanksgiving. It's on the 16th of November, and it's also at our New Haven branch. So they will be there as we present the proposal for benefits and compensation. If the board feels that there needs to be another Finance and Personnel Committee meeting, we are happy to schedule that in advance of our regular meeting. Something that I have put out there for your consideration is if you wanted to have a Finance and Personnel Committee meeting maybe an hour before the regular session on November 16th. But it is truly your wishes, your pleasure. We can make it happen.
And if that's the case, please email us or let us know
Sure.
so we'll know how to plan.
Absolutely.
Okay. David, would you wish to comment on Finance and Personnel?
Really, Susan has said it. I mean, the main issue we're dealing with, again, is the compensation benefit proposals, and our plan is for the November 16th meeting to bring that forward based on what we were discussing on the meeting of the 12th of October, and then any other things that have come up. We are still in the process of examining the reinsurance portion of our self-insurance fund. As you know, we have reinsurance that makes sure keeps the stop losses from happening for any extreme large claims. We're investigating a new way of potentially dealing with that, almost, if you would say, an insurance pool. And it should be able to save us money, but the main thing that we are interested in is that over the last few years, we've seen the increased use of what's called lasers. These are targeted. They'll see a claim for a certain issue that is going to be a high dollar item, and they'll say, well, if we're going to insure this, we're going to have the stopgap amount of, let's say, $200,000 for most people, but for that individual, it's going to be $400,000. And they're beginning to use those more often. The pool allows us to eliminate those lasers. So we wouldn't have continued use of our resources, it would be part of a pool. So we're getting information on that, and I think that's going to be the way to go, but we're going to have some discussions with Gibson on that. So, other than
I
that,
was under the impression we are currently using lasers.
we do.
Yeah.
And this would eliminate the need for that, because again, the lasers are adding to our cost. They're saying it's not going to be a $225,000 maximum on Dave Sedestrom. It's going to be $400,000 on Dave. The rest of the people, $225,000.
What about the risk-reward ratio?
Well, at this point, it would be an increase. We will see what the increased cost is. That's what we're waiting on. What will be the cost that will need to be in order to join that pool?
I see.
Yeah. But so far, I've been glad to find that out, that, again, we shifted our broker to Gibson, and that's an idea that they have brought forth, and I think it's worth listening to.
Sure. Any questions or? No? Well, can I have a motion to approve the Finance and Personnel Committee minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
I guess, just a question of order here. Isn't this just an update from the committee? Well, I think we already approved the minutes, so I don't know if we need to actually approve anything on this update, right?
No, we'd be actually approving things in November as part of the
Okay.
proposal that we put through.
Forget what I said.
All right.
Okay.
It was a friendly reminder.
You got me. Gloria, help me out.
I know, what can I say? I've set the stage, I guess.
There's a lot going on all the time right now.
Yes.
Okay, well, we have the strategic plan in front of us, and we're looking to approve it, and it's so nicely printed. You want to walk through it? or
I
comment?
absolutely will, and shout out to Asha and her team for nicely printing it. So you have a few pieces before you of the strategic plan. I should add that this is all still open to your suggestions and comments and changes. We've been talking about the plan for the past 4 meetings now, so all of this should be relatively familiar to you. We have in front of you a sheet with our proposed mission, which actually would stand the same as we have it now, a new vision statement, plus a list of values and focus areas, plus some action items. And you also have what, once this is approved, would be the public-facing piece of the plan that we would be able to hand out to stakeholders and elected officials, and also have a digital version on our website. So let me go through the vision, values, and focus areas and goals, and then I would love to open it up to any comments or suggestions, because there's definitely still time and room to add those. So we are proposing that our mission remain the same, enriching the community through lifelong learning and discovery. The new value statement, the new vision statement that we drafted with input from you, the board, as well as our staff, is a community connected to each other through lifelong learning and the transformative power of stories. For the core values for our organization, again, this was crowdsourced from our staff with some input with you, of course. Our core values as an organization would be integrity, literacy and learning, people-first service, inclusion and belonging, and teamwork. And then that leads into our 5 focus areas, which you have that in your packet. So I will read those focus areas out loud, as well as the goals we have set for those focus areas. The first focus area, and we're looking at this piece right here, it says draft on it in red. Focus area number 1, celebrating reading and learning. And the goals for that area would be increased focus on early literacy, expanded education-related programs and infrastructure, a broad and diverse collection that is a point of pride in our community, and equitable digital and technology access to resources for our residents.
I had a question on
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
It's a broad and diverse collection section, a plan for a big read, one county, one book.
Yes.
Is that still continuing? Does this replicate what was done years ago, or?
It would be very similar. We can partner under the umbrella of an organization like the NEA or the NEH, or we could develop our own program, our own curriculum for it.
And who selects the book? How's that process work?
We could do it a lot of different ways. We could do a community survey. We could work with Indiana Humanities to partner with them to see if they have some suggestions.
And do we get buy-in from the schools or the patrons, or?
Yes and yes, all of that.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
Just a question.
Yeah.
The last word for our residents, can you explain why we use the word residents? Equitable digital technologies access to resources for our residents.
We were interpreting that as the people of Allen County, but we are open to other phrasing or terminology for it.
Okay. Just looked a little odd.
Okay.
I understand what you're probably thinking it should be patrons, I'm assuming,
No,
or,
it goes beyond that. I mean, you know.
And Jim, you have a point too, in that
Yeah.
we serve a global audience, particularly with our genealogy collection.
so is it limiting? Is that part of,
Yeah, it was,
okay.
Should we say community? Would that work?
There you go.
You like that? That's a really good point, Jim. I'm glad you caught that. Any other thoughts? These are really good questions and good comments. Okay, we will go to focus area number 2, creating a culture of belonging. with goals of collections, services, and spaces representing our community and reflecting its diversity in cultures, abilities, and lived experiences. An updated and consistent service model at all locations to best meet the needs of all patrons. And connected staff working as a team with a greater sense of belonging at ACPL. Moving into our third focus area, connecting community, we have goals of a program strategy centering around community voices, talents, and needs, expanded engagement with community organizations and schools, and increased collaboration between ACPL, the Friends of ACPL, the Friends of the Lincoln Collection, and the ACPL Foundation.
For all of these, do we have KPIs, key performance indicators? How are we going to know whether we're falling short or we've achieved or surpassed our goal?
Very good question. So we see that as part of the action items. You'll notice in the list of action items, they are quantifiable, and you will see a year out to the side. That is the year that we plan on beginning the work. The ones that say 2024, a lot of them we've actually already started. You will notice that a lot of the action items are front-loaded to the early part of the plan because this is a 4-year plan. That's because we wanted to give room to add additional action items, or maybe an action item will take a little longer than anticipated.
I have a comment on this one. For this, and I think that we potentially as a board could have a goal in here. I would like to see us add a goal here that talks about expanded advocacy to our elected officials. In this, it's about connecting the community to what we're doing, and I think that, given the conversations we've been having around the capital needs of the district, I think that we need to maybe figure out some other creative ways to get things in front of our elected officials. I mean, we have, of course, our annual things that we do with the budget cycle, and even some of our appointed boards, we do annual presentations to them. But I'm thinking more along the lines of, and it's hard when you like have a strategic plan like this. If you throw the whole strategic plan at someone, chances are they're not going to read the whole thing. So it becomes a question of, like, when we approve this strategic plan, how do we get the highlights of that potentially in front of some of our elected officials, things along those lines, and also our needs. I think that's the other piece of this, is that that's a part of the collaboration side of this. More so than ever with some of the legislation that's been passed, we need the collaboration of some of our elected officials. When we could stand alone a little bit before on some of the capital work, and we've always needed them to bond, but we all know that the process has gotten a little more complicated with some legislation. So I don't want to hold up the process, of approval today. I don't think it's that critical to be in here, but I think it would be good for us to figure out how to wordsmith a goal that talks about that advocacy and outreach to our elected officials, and then we can decide maybe some appropriate action items to go into that.
That's an excellent point, and it segues into something I was going to bring up later. This is a wonderful piece of material.
It is.
I mean, I think I know what goes on in at least part of the library world, but when you read this, I mean, we're doing amazing things. And something like this distributed to our state legislators, our city council, our county elected officials, and even if they thumb through it, they're going to pick up an idea or two.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know we're doing this at the library. This is just a wonderful piece.
Thank you. It takes a lot of time and effort to put that together, and we're really grateful you
It
feel that
shows
way.
it, yeah.
Is that currently distributed to elected officials?
It is
The little
posted
cover
online,
letter?
but we do not distribute it to elected officials, and that is an excellent idea.
And I think that would even be good to come
Yeah.
from the chair of the board
Yeah.
in a mailed package to each one stating, please find the enclosed information, and we're happy to share our results and success, things along those lines. And that way, because I do feel, a lot of this is staff-oriented, but I do feel like this is one goal where the board could chime in more.
Good point.
Yeah.
I think you just wrote an action item for the goal.
There you go.
Right there.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and maybe it's defining quarterly actions or something along those lines that we can do, but I don't know. I think there's room for growth there for us.
Yeah. Excellent idea. I will move on to focus area number 4. This is where we actually had to dial it back a bit because we have so many goals for focus area 4 because there's so much that can be done under the umbrella of leading through innovation. But we settled on goals of streamlined patron access to information and services, expanded genealogy services throughout the community, expanded access to the Roland Center and the Lincoln Financial Foundation collection, increased system-wide efficiencies via up-to-date technology solutions, and increased staff support and development.
One of the items that I noticed, as being an educator, because it's very important, that the professional development of your staff, I think that needs to always be ongoing.
Absolutely.
And even to those who may not even be in this room, but in other arenas that we may not normally think of, that would get that opportunity, because I think it also gives them a sense of, well, they do notice me, and I am important in this corporation,
Absolutely.
this entity of the Allen County Public Library. And it may be a little part, but it's a very important part. And if that's taken away, other things can start to crumble. So I think, looking beyond maybe the immediate staff, but the others who are maybe looking forward to getting up to
Right.
those those
I-
positions.
I agree totally, and I know Lorraine agrees completely as well, and that is an
Okay.
ongoing goal and work of hers, to be very intentional about that professional development for all of our staff, not just library public-facing staff, but the entire organization, because it takes everybody.
It does, because you never know when a patron comes in, whom they're going to see first. They're not going to see you first.
No.
I'm going
they're
to
not.
see the people, the two gentlemen that are sitting out there, that when I come in, the officers, and they're the ones who really greet people too.
Right, and some patrons are going to come in and they're going to see a clean building and a clean restroom, and that is their impression of the library.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
very important too. And then finally, speaking of functional friendly spaces and clean spaces, focus area 5, designing functional friendly spaces. Goals are to design, build, and maintain welcoming and user-friendly spaces and facilities, improve signage to improve communication with and wayfinding for patrons at all locations, and continually advance our patrons' online experience through development of ACPL's website, mobile app, and other technologies as appropriate. And I have to say that as far as that being a goal, we already are working on that quite intently, and on Monday, you will see a brand-new website and app, along with our new ILS.
Well, sounds exciting,
It's very exciting.
and I think it's long overdue that we have a new website. That's nice. Are there any questions or comments?
I think this is very well done from that standpoint. I think it's clear to the point. I know that in the past strategic plan, we kind of took a little more of a, I'm going to say an organic approach, where we kind of defined some goals, but then we weren't as defined in the action steps and the action items. And I'll just say, as a governing board member, it became hard to understand exactly where we were going with each of those goals. So I'm really glad that we have some good definition here that allows us to get updates and be able to track those. And to Ben's point, that there's some, KPIs and some measurables in here that we understand how we're being successful with each of the goals. So good job to the team for putting some meaningful information together and a logical flow, I guess, from that standpoint and document.
It was truly a team effort.
So can I have a motion to approve the 24-28 strategic plan?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Very good, good job.
Thank you.
And now we have an ordinance, David, which I suspect is part of your handiwork.
That is, yes, this is the culmination of all the budget work. It's Budget Form 4, it's Resolution 2023-2. This really culminates, in the what was advertised, and now we will submit to Gateway for approval. Just as a recap, we are limited to a 4% growth this year on our levy, and so we have set up the budget growth also for 4% on the official budget. Again, this is the official budget, which will be $38,502,459. The actual internal budget will be $36,007,452, quite a bit less because, of course, we have to account for caps, losses and the circuit breakers. The rate we are advertising and will submit is 0.1596 for every $100 of assessed value. That's the high rate. That is the official budget rate. What it will actually come in is, once assessed values are totally known by and submitted by the assessor, it will be much lower than that. For an example, this year's rate was 0.1304, but we have to advertise high enough that we capture the levy that we need to on this. So this is one of the ordinance and the forms that need to be not only signed by you, but you actually have to, and we just got a notice from DLGF, make sure your board members indicate yes or no on this. So we have to have a high-tech thing like a check mark that you have to do too. But that's basically what we're asking for here, Ben, but I'd be glad to answer any other questions.
Let's put that in the form of a motion. Can I have that as a motion?
Move to approve resolution number 2023-2.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. It passes, and you'll circulate it so we know
I
to
shall.
check the back.
That's right, exactly. Thank you, Ben.
Okay. Well, now to the holidays.
To the holidays, you have in your packet a list of proposed holidays for closing for 2024. It is virtually unchanged from 2023. It continues to have 7 closed holidays and 3 floating holidays for staff. The one thing that it doesn't have on here yet would be a potential closing in the fall of 2024 for our annual staff training day. We typically have that sometime between August and October. We haven't landed on that date yet. We would be coming to you probably early next year with a formal request for that once we land on a date.
Motion to approve, or a motion, then we can vote for approval.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So real quick, on the ones where it's giving a range for the paid holiday to be taken, that just means it becomes a flexible holiday for staff to take whenever they want during that
Exactly,
period?
a floating holiday.
Okay,
Mhm.
just making sure I understood that.
Yes,
And this is the same as in the past.
it's the same as in the past, yes.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Okay. Then the next item is the meeting dates and locations.
Can we believe we're talking about 2024 meeting dates and locations? But we are. So I have before you a list of proposed meeting dates and locations for the year 2024. We would continue to visit branches quarterly, so this schedule includes a February meeting at Pontiac, a May meeting at Hessen Castle, an August meeting in Monroeville, and a November meeting at Aboit. And all of them would fall on the fourth Thursday of the month, with the exception of November and December because of the holidays.
Okay, can we put this in the form of a motion?
So moved?
Thank you. And a
Second.
thank you, Jim. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye,
Aye.
and opposed by nay. It passes.
Great, thank you.
Okay, our computer use and internet access annual review of policy.
Yes, so annually, the state library asks every board to review the library's computer resources and internet acceptable use policy. What we have before you, the content is virtually unchanged, but Kim Boland did go through and make some minor typographical errors and some language cleanup, but the content is the same. But we would just ask for a review and approval on that, so when the state library asks if we approved it this year, we can check that box, yes.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. We're just moving along.
Check that box.
It's a little early this year, but we'll appoint a nominating committee, and since the committee did such a fine job in the past several years, I will ask if Paul, Sharon, and Gloria would like to serve.
Sure.
And I'll speak for Sharon, she's delighted.
That's what you get for not being here.
That's right. Okay, any new business that should come before this body?
I think we skipped the executive director's report.
Right.
Oh, I forgot that. Okay, I was going to give you time off. But
I have a lot of things to say tonight, though. I'll try to be brief, but like you said, there's just a lot of great things going on. First, and well, there's so I can't even say first and foremost because they're all so important, but we were thrilled that Aboit has reopened. They reopened on October 6th. Staff and patrons are quite happy to be back. I was there within the first hour of them reopening, and they already had a school visit. So they were back in business really quickly. Also wanted to share that our own Kurt Witcher, he has been appointed to the Allen County Bicentennial Executive Board and is part of a group of elected officials and community leaders planning for the 2024 County Bicentennial Celebration. So thank you, Kurt, for representing us, and I know we have a lot of fun things in store for that. Wanted to share that our Pontiac branch has been hosting hiring fairs for the new Pontiac Street Market grocery store that should be opening in the coming weeks. They are really thrilled to partner with them. They've also been asked to have an informational table at the market's grand opening that I think we're going to see in the next few weeks. And the branch staff are just in general very, very excited about having a grocery store in the neighborhood now. Wanted to share that October is Family History Month, and the Genealogy Center is celebrating with 31 days of programming geared towards seasoned and beginning researchers. And among this month's programs included 2 historical walking tours led by the Genealogy Center staff, one at Lindenwood Cemetery, which I believe had about 50 people there, Kurt. And then I had the pleasure of attending the one last weekend, an historical walking tour of the Williams Woodland Park neighborhood. And we got a little damp, but it was still a really good time. And then tomorrow night, it is extended hours in the Genealogy Center. So we will be open in the Genealogy Center until 9 o'clock for our researchers. And correct me if I'm wrong, Kurt, I believe we have a group from Arizona coming in?
They've been in all week.
Yeah. So we are continuing to do extensive communication around next week's migration to the Polaris ILS. I trust that you saw the editorial in last weekend's newspaper about the change. We are still in our limited services period, and our patrons have been very accepting and gracious with any minor inconveniences, but we're still able to check out books, so they're happy about that. We will be closed on Monday, October 30th to prepare to go live to patrons the next day. Also, on Monday, we will be launching our new website and our app. And I'd be here all night if I listed everybody who played a part in this, but there are a few really instrumental people that have been working very, very long days and very, very long nights to make sure this is done well and done properly and that we're ready to go next week, so I wanted to acknowledge them. We have our implementation team. They are under the incredible leadership of the incomparable Kim Boland. We could not have done this without her, so thank you, Kim. And on that implementation team included System Services Manager Nate Bernard, Technical Services Manager Christine Dietrich, Collection Services Manager Matt Etzel, our Employee Experience Coordinator Diana Flory, Tanya Frandl, who is our Branch Services Manager, Aaron Smith, who is our Genealogy Materials Manager, Kevin Wells, who is our IT Services Manager, and Kurt Witcher, our Director of Special Collections, and Aja, as well as our Digital Communication Specialist, Jeff Garver. They have been overseeing the implementation of the new website and the new app. We have been able to get a sneak peek, and it looks really, really good. And we also have received notification that the approval process to get the new app in the app stores is in process, so that should be good to go Monday. It's approved. If you already have the app on your phone, all you have to do is accept the update. But we're really excited to launch it to everybody. You're going to love it, and I am just incredibly grateful to the team and the time and care and hours they have put into this.
Quick question. I recall we had a visit from Lincoln Corporate for the what's the feedback?
They were very, very impressed, and there's been some follow-up communication with them about how we can continue to engage and how they can be even more connected with the collection and support the work. Anything you'd like to add to that, Kurt?
I think that sums it up well.
And to know, just out of curiosity, Vic genealogy, I can't help but see two things in front of you.
Yes, so I was actually going to mention that as part of our
Go
quarterly
ahead.
managers report.
Well, then go ahead.
Yes, so those were written by our own John Beatty, a senior genealogy librarian. We mention it on page 14 of your quarterly managers report. John Beatty is, of course, a fellow Quest Club member with you, Ben.
And you, aren't you a Quest?
I am not. I am
Oh,
not.
well, we'll have to get you on board.
One more thing.
But
It's a
John,
secret society.
it is a secret society.
Talk about it.
We should talk about it out loud, yeah. So John's recently published book, The Vic Genealogy, the study of a Southern American family in white and black, make your Vanna White gesture there, Kurt, yes, was nominated for and won the 2023 Award for Excellence in Publishing a Family History Relevant to North Carolina. And that award is given by the North Carolina Genealogical Society. And when I read that, I asked Kurt, could you bring it down and we can pass it around? And he said, well, it's 2 volumes and it's 1,000 pages. So I said, well, maybe we don't pass it around, but there it is. So we're very proud of our own John and want to congratulate him for that. Also wanted to note in our manager's report, speaking of all the good stuff, if you go to page 23, this is the first time that our marketing team and communications team launched a full marketing campaign which ran for 4 weeks regarding Library Card Sign-Up Month and UC panels on CityLink buses. That was part of our promotion. And we saw an increase of nearly 25% more library card sign-ups since September of 2022. So it was very successful. And a good partnership with CityLink. And then finally in my report, I wanted to share a brief video. Donnie's right there. So to set this up, on page 5 of your quarterly managers report, we mention an activity that occurred at our Georgetown library. It was under the leadership of Aisha Hallman with our Teen Services Department, as well as Stephen Platt, the manager of the Georgetown branch. She was here today, in case you have any questions. But during the school year, Blackhawk Middle School students were involved in an after-school program with a local artist named Lindsay Bazile, and with a collaborative art mural project that they worked on together and now is hanging in the Georgetown teen area. And our Access Fort Wayne team put together a video about that process, and we're going to show it tonight. Thank you, Donnie.
My name is Bill, and this is Studio. The downtown library. We had our first session at the Georgetown Library a couple months ago, where the teams came and we kind of collaborated together on some ideas and designs. And then today we met in the studio here to take the next step as far as painting the compositions that we had come up with together previously. The first step was we just had a conversation where we all brainstormed. I asked questions about the teen space at Georgetown. What does the space mean to the teens that are there? What does it provide them they wouldn't have otherwise? What does it feel like? What are some memories that they have from being there? And what do they hope the space can offer to other teens coming in the future. And then the teens took those words and made sketches of images that kind of reflected what the words we had come up with. And so then I took those sketches and I arranged them in a composition together. So if there was ideas about community and there was ideas about security, I found ways to mix those two ideas together in a composition. None of those compositions would have come up without the pieces that the kids had offered up initially. I do think the kids are getting a lot out of this project. A lot of the kids come in confident, with a lot of energy, and maybe they don't have experience, but they aren't afraid to try new things. Some of them are. They probably do consider themselves artists, and they have painted and they draw and they do a lot of digital art. And then some kids really are nervous to even put anything on paper or say anything out loud. And so there's all different levels. So being able to create and make art gives you an opportunity to kind of like create your worldview. So you can know what you see, know what you experience, and then filter it for yourself, put it on paper, see it, and it just becomes more real for you that way. I feel like it's a good way for me and for the kids to process emotion, the world we exist in, our experiences. And it's really cool when they get to do it together because you see them kind of like processing together and, you know, growing and like getting technical skills together. And it's fun when they ask each other like, hey, how do you draw this? And like one of the kids might know and they can show the other kids. And it just kind of creates that situation where they're helping each other, leading each other, and like trusting each other to make something together. So I feel like that's just the whole thing about living in a community. Practicing making art together, like practicing existing and living together and having healthy relationships. The public will see the final project when it's installed at the Georgetown Library. So it'll be in the teens room and there'll be 4 large panels. I'm kind of picturing them like tapestries, but I really want the public to see a true representation of the identity of the kids at Georgetown. So, you know, if they're a large group, they're all different, but they do have intersectional identity. They share the identity of being at a certain age, of going to a certain school, of sharing that space at Georgetown and being alive at this time, being the age they are at this time in the world. So they have a lot in common, and I want them to be able to show their identity and also recognize it for themselves together so they can feel that support from each other and know that they have that connection with each other.
It looks phenomenal in person, and I want to thank our team member Aisha for connecting us with Lindy and facilitating this project, and I want to thank Stephen for being so open to it and showing the leadership with the teens. You saw a bit of Stephen in there. He came along and painted with the teens. You worked on that giraffe, didn't you?
Well, it's super.
Pretty neat. Any observations, comments? Anybody want to buy one of those paintings?
Possibly.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
I just turned to a page that I wanted to comment on, the quarterly management report, page 24, for the community awareness engagement of information technology services. That completion rate, annual completion rate of almost 95% is, I think, outstanding. And I know we had at Steel Dynamics a challenge to get anywhere near that. Well done.
Thank you. That's due to Kim and Kevin and the leadership in that department. Thank you. They will greatly appreciate that feedback.
Okay, now we finished the executive director's report.
Yes, finally.
Finally. Any items of new business? Public comment? Anything via the wires? Well, okay. How many people did we have tune in?
Currently have 12 people watching.
Well, thank you for the 12. You're honorary board members.
That's right.
With nothing else on the agenda and no comments, I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, all in favor, aye, opposed by nay.
Aye.
Aye.
We do have an executive session following this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.